This is where the Nefertiti bust was originally created. It's one version of Nefertiti's official portrait. She may herself have signed off on this image. But really, we have no idea what she looked like in real life.
For over a century, the iconic bust of Queen Nefertiti has stood as a symbol of beauty, mystery, and ancient power. But now, new high-tech scans are uncovering details that no one anticipated, sending shockwaves through the world of archaeology. Beneath its flawless surface, something unexpected has been revealed.
Egyptian Queen Nefertiti could finally have been discovered thanks to advances in modern technology. A British archaeologist says radar scanning suggests her remains could be hidden inside.
Raising questions that challenge long-held assumptions. Experts are now re-examining everything they thought they knew. So, what exactly did these scans uncover? And could this discovery rewrite part of ancient history as we know it today forever? Hidden structure inside Nefertiti's bust. Recent scientific scans of Queen Nefertiti's famous bust have revealed something that surprised experts more than expected. Instead of simply confirming what was already believed about the ancient artwork, the results showed a deeper and more complex story. Using advanced CT scanning technology, researchers were able to look inside the structure of the bust without damaging it. What they found was not what anyone expected. Beneath the smooth and perfectly shaped outer surface lies an inner structure that does not fully match the face that the world has admired for centuries. This hidden core suggests that the outer layer may have been carefully adjusted or reshaped to create a more ideal and powerful image of the queen. For many years, Nefertiti's bust has been praised as one of the most beautiful representations of ancient Egyptian art. It is often shown in museums and textbooks as a symbol of perfection, elegance, and royal strength. But this discovery changes the way people may look at it. If the outer surface was indeed shaped over a different inner form, then the bust may not be a simple portrait of the queen as she truly was. Instead, it could be a carefully designed version meant to send a message of power, beauty, and divine authority. This raises a powerful question that continues to challenge historians and scientists alike. Was the world ever seeing Nefertiti's real face as it actually was? Or were they looking at an artistic reconstruction meant to represent an ideal version of her? Ancient Egyptian rulers were often shown in highly perfected forms in art, not always as exact copies of reality. This makes it possible that the bust was not only a portrait, but also a symbol of status and influence. In many ways, this discovery adds a new layer of mystery to one of the most famous ancient artworks ever found. It reminds us that history is not always as clear as it seems, and even objects we think we understand can still surprise us. The face of Nefertiti may continue to inspire admiration, but now it also carries a deeper question about truth and appearance in ancient art. As technology improves, more secrets like this may come to light, changing how we understand the past. Nefertiti's bust remains both a stunning masterpiece and a lasting mystery, sitting at the meeting point of art, history, and science. Modern CT scans suggest its outer surface was carefully shaped over a different inner face, raising questions about how and why it was altered. Even today, scientists continue to study it, but clear answers are still missing. This uncertainty keeps Nefertiti's image alive as one of ancient Egypt's most fascinating and debated discoveries worldwide. Modern technology revealed that the outer layer of Nefertiti's bust was carefully shaped to conceal a story. But could the alteration have been intentional? And for what reason could the portrait have been designed the way many believed it to be before this revelation? Now, let's uncover a carefully rebuilt image of power. Beyond the beautiful face, what makes this discovery even more surprising is how carefully it seems to have been done. The scientific scans suggest that the outer face we see today was not created all at once. Instead, it may have been added later, after the original carving was already finished. This means the bust did not simply begin and end as one fixed design. It appears to have gone through changes, with new layers added to improve or transform the appearance. From what researchers are now seeing, the outer surface looks like it was carefully shaped to create a smoother, younger, and more perfect-looking face. Small adjustments appear to have been made to the structure beneath, as if someone intentionally wanted to refine the original form. The changes are not random or accidental. They seem planned, deliberate, and focused on creating a certain image. This raises a much bigger idea about what the bust really represents. It may not just be a simple portrait of Queen Nefertiti as she looked in real life. Instead, it could be something more powerful and symbolic. It may have been designed as a controlled image, carefully built to send a message rather than just capture a true likeness. In ancient times, rulers were often shown in ideal forms. Artists sometimes enhanced their features to make them appear more powerful, more beautiful, or even more divine. If this is the case with Nefertiti's bust, then it was not only about showing her face, but about shaping how people would see her as a queen. The discovery has shocked many experts because it changes how we understand one of the most famous artworks in history. For years, people believed they were looking at a direct and honest representation of Nefertiti. But now, there is growing evidence that what we see may be a carefully constructed version, edited to fit a specific image of power and perfection. This also opens up deeper questions about history itself. How many other famous artworks might have been adjusted in similar ways? How often did ancient rulers allow their image to be changed to fit political goals or cultural ideals? In the end, this finding does not reduce the beauty or importance of the bust. Instead, it makes it even more fascinating. It shows that behind the calm and elegant face of Nefertiti may lie a story of careful design, artistic control, and hidden intention. What once seemed like a simple face is now a powerful reminder that history is often shaped, refined, and sometimes even rewritten through art, leaving us with more questions than answers today. Queen Nefertiti's bust was intentionally designed so that people would revere the late queen. But what effort was employed to give the bust a physical structure that would also reflect the image created around the personality of the queen? And could there have been a deliberate omission in some details? Now, let's dive into the physical secrets hidden in the bust. The mystery behind Nefertiti's bust. The famous bust of Queen Nefertiti is admired not only for its striking beauty, but also for the careful craftsmanship behind it. At first glance, it appears to be a smooth and simple sculpture of a powerful queen. However, when experts examined it more closely, they discovered it is far more complex, with hidden details and layers that reveal a deeper and more intriguing story. The bust stands at about 48 centimeters tall and weighs around 20 kilograms. That makes it fairly solid and heavy for a work of ancient art. Scientists have confirmed that it was not carved from a single piece of perfect stone. Instead, it was built in layers. At its core is limestone, a common material used in ancient Egyptian sculpture. Over this base, artists added layers of painted stucco, slowly shaping and refining the surface until it became smooth and elegant. This layered construction reveals how highly skilled the ancient craftsmen truly were. They did not just carve a face and leave it unfinished. Instead, they worked slowly and carefully, building the sculpture step by step. Each detail was adjusted with care until the final result looked smooth, refined, and worthy of a royal figure. But when researchers looked even closer, they noticed small details that do not fully match the idea of a finished masterpiece. The face appears almost perfectly balanced, with both sides looking very similar. Yet one important detail stands out clearly. The left eye is not complete. Unlike the right eye, which is beautifully finished with a detailed quartz inlay held in place with black paint and beeswax, the left eye has no insert at all. Instead, it remains empty, showing the raw limestone underneath. This difference is striking, especially in such a carefully made object. This unfinished detail has led to many questions. Was the bust never fully completed by the artist? Or was the left eye intentionally left unfinished for a reason that is now lost to time? Some experts believe this detail may show that the bust was still under construction when it was suddenly left unfinished or moved elsewhere. Others argue it might have been intentional, possibly influenced by ancient traditions, symbolic meaning, or even last-minute changes in artistic direction while the sculpture was being created. Whatever the reason, this small imperfection adds even more mystery to an already famous artifact. Instead of taking away from its beauty, it makes the bust more human and more intriguing. It reminds us that even the most admired works of ancient art were created by real people, with decisions, limitations, and stories that are still not fully understood today. Beyond the visual representation of Queen Nefertiti's carefully engineered image, possibly with some deliberate choices meant to reflect her power, what could have led to her strong and influential position in her time? Could her husband, the king, have empowered her, or was she independently powerful in her own right? Let's uncover the astonishing details. Queen Nefertiti in the Age of Revolution. To truly understand why Nefertiti's image and legacy matter so much, we have to step back into the world she actually lived in. Ancient Egypt at that time was going through one of the biggest changes in its long history. Life, religion, and even the way people saw their rulers were all being turned upside down. Nefertiti was the wife of Pharaoh Akhenaten, a ruler who shocked his kingdom with bold and unexpected decisions. Before his reign, Egypt followed many gods. Each city and temple had its own powerful deity, and the priests who served them held great influence over society. Religion was deeply woven into daily life, and the system had remained stable for centuries. But Akhenaten changed all of that. He rejected the old gods and pushed forward a completely new belief. Instead of many gods, he introduced the worship of just one divine force, Aten, the sun disk. This was not a small adjustment. It was a complete break from tradition. Temples were closed or ignored, old religious leaders lost power, and the entire structure of belief in Egypt was shaken. This sudden change brought confusion and tension across the kingdom, as people who had followed the old traditions for generations were suddenly expected to accept a completely new belief. In such a fragile and uncertain time, the royal family became the main focus of both attention and control, shaping how the entire nation responded to the change. Nefertiti, as queen, was not just a silent figure beside the pharaoh. She stood at the heart of this transformation. In many images and inscriptions, she appears alongside Akhenaten as an equal partner in religious worship. This was unusual for the time and suggests that her role may have been far more important than that of a traditional queen. She became part of a powerful new vision where religion, politics, and royal authority were all mixed into one system. Together with the king, she helped shape how people in Egypt understood the world, how they saw the gods, and even how they viewed their rulers and royal power. During this unstable time, every image of the royal family carried great meaning. Art was not just for beauty or decoration. It was a powerful tool used to influence people. It helped show authority, guide beliefs, and shape how the public trusted and supported their rulers. This is why the bust of Nefertiti is so important. It is not just a sculpture of a queen, it is a reflection of a time when Egypt was being rebuilt from the ground up, when old traditions were broken, and when new ideas about faith and leadership were forced into existence. The decision of Queen Nefertiti's husband to transform Egypt elevated her status. But to what extent did Nefertiti's rise reach? And could her bust portrait have been designed to align with this new level of power? Now, let's uncover how a queen was shaped into a symbol of power. The rise of a divine queen. During this unusual period in ancient Egypt, Queen Nefertiti's public image grew far stronger than what was normally expected of a queen. In most earlier times, queens were seen in the background, supporting the pharaoh, but rarely taking center stage. However, under the rule of Akhenaten, things began to change in a very striking way. Nefertiti was no longer just a royal wife, seen in quiet support of her husband. In temple carvings and wall paintings, she appears in a much more powerful light. She is shown taking part in sacred rituals, standing directly beside the king, and sharing in religious duties that were once reserved only for pharaohs. In some rare scenes, she is even shown acting alone, performing roles that suggest leadership and authority. This kind of representation was highly unusual in ancient Egypt. It was not common for a queen to be placed on the same level as a king, especially in matters of religion and rule. Because of this, many experts believe that her image was carefully shaped for a purpose. Rather than simply showing what she looked like or what she did in daily life, her public image may have been designed to send a message. That message was about power, unity, and the strength of the new religious system introduced by Akhenaten. By placing Nefertiti at the center of these sacred scenes, the royal court could reinforce the idea that the new order was not only supported by the king, but also by the queen as a divine partner. When we look at the famous bust of Nefertiti, this idea becomes even more interesting. Her face appears perfectly balanced, calm, and almost ideal in every way. The smooth lines, the gentle expression, and the sense of control all seem carefully planned. Nothing about it feels random or casual. Because of this, many scholars believe the bust was not created just as a simple portrait. Instead, it may have been designed to represent something deeper. It could have been meant to show authority, divine connection, and emotional strength, rather than just physical appearance. In this sense, the bust fits perfectly into the larger pattern of how Nefertiti was presented during this time. Every image of her seems to carry meaning beyond beauty alone. It reflects a carefully built identity, one that helped support a new and powerful system of belief. So instead of only seeing a queen's face, we may actually be looking at a carefully constructed symbol of leadership, stability, and divine rule in a time when Egypt itself was being reshaped. The revolution led by Queen Nefertiti's husband brought about her rise, which may have influenced the carefully detailed design of her bust. But what mysterious events were recorded during this period, and how do they shape Nefertiti's personality? Could they have contributed to the discrepancies in her bust? Let's uncover the shocking details. The Vanishing Queen. At a certain point during the reign of Pharaoh Akhenaten, something strange happens in the historical record. Queen Nefertiti, who once appeared so prominently in temple art, inscriptions, and royal scenes, suddenly disappears. It is not a gradual fading or a slow reduction in mentions. Instead, it is as if she simply vanishes from the story of ancient Egypt. What makes this even more puzzling is the complete lack of clear answers. There is no confirmed record of her death, no official statement from the royal court, and no burial site that can be confidently linked to her. In a civilization known for carefully recording the lives of its rulers, this silence feels strange and unsettling, making her disappearance stand out as one of the most unusual and intriguing mysteries in ancient Egyptian history. After her disappearance, things become even more puzzling. Her name begins to be removed from monuments, statues, and carved inscriptions across Egypt. In many places where her name once stood, it is erased and replaced with other names or symbols. This is not a small or random change. It appears to be done carefully and deliberately, as if someone wanted to make sure her presence was removed from history itself. This kind of removal is not something done lightly in ancient Egypt. Names and images carried deep meaning. To erase a name was almost like erasing a person's memory and influence. Because of this, many experts believe that this was not an accident or a simple correction. It looks more like an intentional effort to reshape how future generations would remember her. Naturally, this sudden silence has created one of the biggest mysteries in ancient Egyptian history. For decades, historians and archaeologists have tried to understand what really happened. Some believe she may have died quietly and was quickly removed from official records for political reasons. Others think she may have fallen out of favor with the royal court or been involved in changes within the ruling family. Some theories suggest she may have taken on a different identity or role later in life, which is why her name disappeared from public records. However, no theory has been proven with certainty. The evidence is incomplete, and the silence itself raises even more questions than answers. Because of this, Nefertiti's disappearance continues to stand as one of the most debated and fascinating mysteries of ancient Egypt. A queen who once appeared so powerful and visible in art and religion seems to have been erased almost completely, leaving behind only fragments of her story and a long trail of unanswered questions that still challenge modern researchers today. Queen Nefertiti disappeared at the peak of her husband's reign, a time when her power had grown significantly. But does this disappearance mark the end of her story, or does it point to a powerful transformation surrounding her identity? The hidden identity of Neferuaten. After Queen Nefertiti disappears from the historical record, something strange begins to take her place. A new ruler starts appearing in ancient inscriptions, and this name is Neferuaten. At first, it looks like just another change in leadership during a time when Egypt was already going through deep political and religious instability. But as scholars study the evidence more closely, the story becomes far more complicated and mysterious. What makes Neferuaten so interesting is not just the name itself, but the way it is written in some ancient texts. In certain inscriptions, the language used includes feminine forms. This detail is very important because ancient Egyptian writing often clearly showed whether a ruler was male or female. Because of this, many researchers began to question who this person really was. This small linguistic clue opened the door to one of the most debated theories in Egyptology. Some scholars suggest that Neferuaten may not be a completely separate ruler at all. Instead, they believe this name could belong to Queen Nefertiti herself, used during a later stage of her life. If this idea is correct, it would mean that Nefertiti did not truly vanish from history. Instead, she may have simply taken on a new royal identity and continued to rule Egypt under a different name. In this possible scenario, her disappearance from earlier records would not represent an end, but a transformation. She could have stepped into a new role during a difficult time, perhaps to maintain stability, or continue the religious and political changes started during Akhenaten's reign. This would explain why her original name seems to fade, while Neferuaten appears soon after. However, this theory is still far from proven. Many Egyptologists remain cautious because the evidence is incomplete and sometimes unclear. Ancient records from this period are fragmentary, and different interpretations are possible. As a result, there is no full agreement on the true identity of Neferuaten. Some experts believe she was Nefertiti, while others argue that Neferuaten may have been another member of the royal family or a completely separate ruler who briefly held power. There are even suggestions that the name could have been used by more than one person in a short period of time, which adds even more confusion to the historical record. What makes this mystery so powerful is that it sits right at the heart of Nefertiti's disappearance. If Neferuaten was indeed her, then history may not have lost Nefertiti at all. It may simply know her under a different name. But until stronger evidence is discovered, her true identity remains one of ancient Egypt's most fascinating and unsolved questions. There is a theory that Nefertiti reappeared and ruled as Neferuaten, though the circumstances surrounding this identity are not clearly documented. But could a mummy attributed to them help reveal the truth about Nefertiti's final moments? And how do the discoveries in the tombs relate to the shape of her bust? Let's find out. Explosive clues from a mysterious royal mummies. A breakthrough in the long search for answers about Queen Nefertiti came from a tomb known as KV-21, located in the famous Valley of the Kings in Egypt. This site has already revealed many royal secrets over the years, but what was found here added a new and unexpected layer to the mystery. Inside the tomb, archaeologists discovered two unidentified female mummies. At first, there was nothing clearly pointing to who they were. Their identities were unknown, and for a long time, they remained just silent remains from ancient history. However, as modern science improved, researchers were able to study them in much greater detail. One of the mummies, labeled KV-21b, became especially important. Genetic testing suggested that she had a close biological connection to the royal family of Tutankhamun. This discovery was significant because Tutankhamun belonged to the same royal bloodline connected to Nefertiti and Akhenaten. This link immediately raised new questions about who KV-21b might have been and what role she played in the royal family. But the mystery did not end there. When scientists used advanced CT scans to examine the mummy more closely, they uncovered something even more disturbing. The body showed signs of severe injuries. The scans revealed broken arms, a crushed chest, and a fractured skull. These were not small or minor wounds. They appeared to be serious injuries that likely happened around the time of death. This finding changed everything. Instead of a peaceful burial or a natural death, the evidence suggested that violence might have been involved. This opened the possibility that the woman may have died under tragic or even violent circumstances rather than from illness or old age. Because of these clues, some researchers began to consider a bold idea. Could this mysterious mummy actually be Queen Nefertiti? The location, the royal genetic link, and the unclear identity all seem to fit parts of her story. Combined with her sudden disappearance from historical records, KV-21b started to look like a possible candidate for her final resting place. However, this theory is still not confirmed. Many experts remain cautious, pointing out that there are still too many unknowns. Ancient Egypt's royal history is complex, and without clear inscriptions or direct evidence, identification remains uncertain. Even so, the discovery at K521 has added a powerful new chapter to the mystery. It has transformed a quiet tomb into the center of one of the most debated questions in archaeology. If K521b is truly Nefertiti, then her final moments may have been far more tragic than anyone once imagined, leaving behind a story that is still waiting to be fully uncovered. Beyond K521b, which is widely believed by some to be the final resting place of Nefertiti, why has her tomb not been clearly identified by historians? Could there have been a deliberate effort to erase her and her family from history? Now, let's uncover the fragile dynasty that Egypt tried to erase from history. The lost legacy of Nefertiti's bloodline. Some of the most fascinating theories about Queen Nefertiti suggest that her final resting place has not yet been found at all. In fact, some researchers believe her tomb may still be hidden behind sealed or blocked walls inside the burial chamber of Pharaoh Tutankhamun. This idea may sound surprising, but it is not completely impossible. Ancient Egyptian tombs were often built with hidden passages, false doors, and secret chambers designed to protect the dead and their treasures from robbers. Because of this, some experts think that parts of Tutankhamun's tomb may still hold undiscovered spaces that have never been fully opened or explored. If this theory is correct, it would mean that one of the most famous queens in history could still be resting just behind walls that have already been studied for decades. The thought that her tomb might be so close, yet still hidden, continues to excite archaeologists and keeps the search for answers alive. At the same time, the story of Nefertiti's family becomes even more mysterious when we look at what happened to her daughters. Historical records show a troubling pattern. Some of her children appear to have died young, while others seem to vanish from official records without clear explanations. In several cases, their names were removed from monuments or replaced entirely. In ancient Egypt, removing a name was not a simple act. It was often done to erase a person's memory and influence from history. Because of this, many scholars believe these changes were intentional rather than accidental. After the fall of the Amarna period, everything connected to Nefertiti and her husband Akhenaten went through a dramatic reversal. The new rulers who came after them wanted to restore Egypt's old religious traditions. In doing so, they removed traces of the radical changes introduced during Akhenaten's reign. Temples were reopened for the traditional gods, old religious systems were brought back, and much of the Amarna family's legacy was slowly erased or rewritten. This included removing names, destroying images, and reshaping history to fit the new order. When we look at the royal family more closely, another layer of difficulty appears. Evidence suggests that close family marriages were common among royalty during this time. While this practice helped keep power within the royal bloodline, it also created serious problems over time. Many members of the royal family appear to have suffered from poor health, physical weakness, and early deaths. These issues may have weakened the stability of the ruling house. Taken together, these clues suggest a dynasty that was deeply unstable in many ways. Politically, it faced major changes and opposition. Biologically, it struggled with health problems passed through generations. And historically, much of its story was later erased or rewritten. Yet even after thousands of years, the mystery has not disappeared. Instead, it continues to surface in fragments, hidden tomb theories, missing names, and broken records. Each discovery adds another piece to a puzzle that is still incomplete, leaving behind a royal family whose true story is slowly being uncovered but never fully finished, even today. So, what do you think about the revelations surrounding Queen Nefertiti's bust? What part of history do you believe it might be concealing? We would love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Don't forget to like and subscribe.